It started with a soft knock on the door of Emily's cozy home in the small town of Willow Creek. Emily was a single mother of 2 kids, a boy and a girl. She looked through the peephole and saw a tall man on her porch, with piercing blue eyes and dark hair. He introduced himself as John and said he was lost and needed directions to a nearby town. Emily hesitated for a moment, but then motioned for him to come in. John was grateful and seemed harmless enough. But as the days turned into weeks, John never left. He said he had nowhere else to go, and Emily couldn't bring herself to kick him out. However, there was something off about him that made Emily feel uneasy. He spoke in a monotone voice that sent shivers down her spine. One night, Emily woke up to the sound of her children screaming. She rushed to their room, only to find John standing over them with a knife. He had tied them up and was about to kill them. Emily tried to fight him off, but he was too strong. He knocked her unconscious and took her and her children to his basement, which he had turned into a torture chamber. Days turned into weeks, and Emily and her children were subjected to unspeakable horrors. John would come down to the basement every day, wearing a mask and wielding a wicked weapon. He would torture them for hours on end, leaving them broken and bloody. But Emily refused to give up. She knew she had to escape, or her children would be lost forever. So, she bided her time, waiting for the right moment. Finally, one day, John forgot to lock the door to the basement. Emily seized her chance and led her children out of the house, running as fast as they could. But John was hot on their heels. He chased them through the dense forests surrounding Willow Creek, his knife glinting in the moonlight. Emily could hear his footsteps behind her, getting closer and closer. Just when she thought all was lost, they stumbled upon a clearing. In the center of it was an old tree, with twisted branches and gnarled roots. Emily knew what she had to do. She pushed her children behind her and faced John, who was now only a few feet away. She closed her eyes and whispered a prayer, then reached out and touched the tree. Suddenly, a blast of energy shot through her body. John was thrown back, screaming in agony. Emily opened her eyes to see the tree's branches wrapping around him, squeezing him tighter and tighter until he was no more than a pile of bones. Emily and her children never spoke of that night again, but they all knew what had happened. The tree had saved them, and they would be forever grateful. But every now and then, Emily could feel a chill run down her spine, as if John's ghost was still out there, waiting for his revenge. Years passed, and Emily and her children moved to a new town called Cedar Grove. They tried to move on with their lives, but they could never forget what had happened to them. Emily knew she had to do something to honor the tree that had saved their lives. She decided to start a community garden around the old tree, with the help of her children and some neighbors. The garden flourished, and people started coming from all over the town to admire it. One evening, Emily was watering the plants when she noticed a group of teenagers smoking and vandalizing the garden. She tried to reason with them, but they wouldn't listen. Suddenly, the ground shook and the old tree started glowing. Emily watched in amazement as the tree's branches came alive and wrapped around the teenagers, trapping them until the police arrived. From that day on, the people of Cedar Grove knew not to mess with Emily's community garden. They all knew the story of the old tree and how it had saved Emily and her children. And they knew that the spirit of the tree was still alive and well, protecting the garden and everyone who came to enjoy it.